In 2019, Earl Hutchins paid $11,000 for 30 acres of flooded land. Every neighbor laughed. Dale Cooper told the whole county Earl had lost his mind. None of them knew what Earl had been reading for 18 months. Most people see flooded land as worthless. But the USDA documented for decades, seasonally flooded land builds some of the richest organic soil in farming. Earl knew this. Dale Cooper did not. That gap in knowledge was worth $1.2 million. 4 years later, Earl stood in those same 30 acres. The water was gone. What grew in its place had buyers calling from 3 states. Dale drove past that field every single day. He stopped laughing the moment he saw the harvest numbers. Earl's family had farmed Calhoun County for 3 generations. His grandfather broke ground in 1931. That patience, passed down through 3 generations, everyone around him mistook for stubbornness. The 30 acres belonged to Harold Briggs. A drainage tile system failed 2 miles north. The county never repaired it. Water backed up every spring. By 2018, Harold listed the land for $18,000. Nobody offered for 8 months. Here is what most people outside farming don't know. The USDA has a program, Wetland Reserve Easement, that pays landowners federal money for managing flood-prone land. Earl found this program in 2017. He studied it for 18 months before Harold ever listed that field. Earl offered Harold $11,000. Cash. Harold accepted the same afternoon. When word spread at the feed store, Dale Cooper told everyone, Earl Hutchins just paid $11,000 to own a pond. The room laughed. Earl was already calling the USDA field office. The USDA connected Earl with Marcus Webb, a county agricultural extension agent. Marcus drove out on a Tuesday, walked the full perimeter, took soil samples. He came back and said 4 words, "This land has potential." That was enough for Earl. Marcus explained the biology. Seasonal flooding builds what scientists call hydric soil, extraordinarily rich in organic matter. The flooding wasn't destroying Harold's land, it was rebuilding it. Nature doing what Harold spent 20 years trying to do with fertilizer. Before I continue, I want you to understand something. What Earl discovered applies to thousands of acres across this country right now. Land being sold cheap, because owners don't understand what's underneath the water. Pay attention to this next part. The Wetland Reserve Easement pays landowners annually, for 30 years. Your land stays yours. You keep the deed. You simply manage it responsibly, and the federal government pays you. Earl knew this. His neighbors did not. That gap is what this channel exists to close. Earl's first step was simple: understand the drainage. Marcus Webb connected him with Carol Sims, an engineer who specialized in wetland hydrology. She spent 2 full days on the land, mapping how the water moved. And her conclusion was clear. Water comes in around March and naturally drains off by late June. Predictable. Consistent. Almost perfect. Managed wetland farming is actually one of the fastest growing sectors in American agriculture right now. Duck habitat leasing, native plants, water-tolerant crops. And then there are carbon credits. In 2023, wetland owners were earning about $18 per acre. Think about that, 30 acres, getting paid every year, just for letting nature do its job. Earl applied for the Wetland Reserve Easement in late 2019. It wasn't quick, took about 4 months. Soil reports, hydrology data, a full management plan. Then in February 2020, he got approved. $420 per acre every year. On 30 acres, that's $12,600 every single year for 30 years. Then Marcus introduced Earl to a waterfowl nonprofit. The deal was simple. Earl would manage the water levels, and they'd bring in controlled hunting groups each fall. That added another $8,000 a year. So now, USDA payments plus the lease, Earl was making around $20,000 a year from land everyone else called worthless. By the summer of 2021, the real surprise showed up. The soil delivered exactly what Carroll had predicted. Earl planted a small test crop, just 4 acres of heirloom corn, on the sections that drained first. The result? 287 bushels per acre. That same year, the county average was 168. The land that used to flood was now outperforming every dry field around it. In a farming community, word travels fast. By harvest time, Dale Cooper had driven past Earl's field 3 times. The last time, he stopped, stood there at the fence, just looking at that corn for a long moment. Didn't say a word, then got back in his truck and left. Earl noticed, but he didn't say anything either. Here's the part most people miss. Hydric soil, the kind formed by seasonal flooding, builds organic matter at a level dry soil just can't match. USDA data shows it can hold 3 to 5 times more organic material than regular farmland. Earl wasn't just growing crops, he was building soil. In 2022, Earl expanded to 12 acres. A regional organic cooperative was looking for non-GMO grain, locally sourced. Earl's soil tested completely clean, no chemical inputs for 6 years. That was all they needed. They signed a 3-year contract, fixed price, guaranteed purchase. Earl had his revenue locked in before planting a single seed. The 2022 harvest numbers came in around August, 12 acres, averaging 241 bushels per acre. The cooperative contract brought in about $41,000. Add the USDA easement, $12,600. Then the waterfowl lease, another $8,000. Altogether, those 30 acres generated $61,600 that year. In September, the county released its annual report. Earl's land, the same 30 acres that had been considered worthless just 4 years earlier, ranked in the top 12% for revenue per acre in the entire county. Marcus Webb framed a copy of that report, said it was the most satisfying result he'd seen in 19 years. This is where Earl's story becomes practical. Under the USDA Agricultural Conservation Easement Program, landowners can stack multiple income streams at the same time. Easement payments, carbon credits, hunting leases, even recreational access. Those wetland acres actually earn more staying wet than they ever would drained. In the spring of 2023, Dale Cooper showed up at Earl's farm. Knocked on the door early Saturday morning. Earl let him in. They sat at the kitchen table for nearly 2 hours. This time, Dale asked real questions about the programs, the soil, the contracts. Earl answered every one. No attitude, no reminders of the past. By the end of 2023, Dale had enrolled 40 acres of his own flood-prone land into the same program. At the county meeting that December, with dozens of farmers in the room, he stood up and said, "4 years ago, I called that man a fool. I just want everyone here to know I was wrong." Earl just nodded. That was it. So before you sell flood-prone land for cheap, or assume it has no value, talk to your local USDA office. Ask about conservation easements. Ask for a soil assessment. Ask about carbon credit eligibility. These programs are real. They're funded. But most landowners never even ask. In the fall of 2024, Earl received an offer. A land investment company out of Nashville offering $480,000. He didn't rush it. Took 3 weeks. Talked to Marcus. Talked to his son. Talked to his attorney. Then sent back one sentence. "This land will stay here," and filed it away, right next to the original deed. Earl's 30 acres, bought for just $11,000, generated over $60,000 in a single year. The same land people laughed at is now one of the most productive pieces of land in that part of the county. And every spring, when the water comes back, Earl walks out there. Boots in the shallow water, just like the first day. The difference is, he always knew what it was worth.